The Federal and Vale Hospital jointly present the Madurai Marathon 2025. This event is co-presented by Walking Shoe Company and powered by PSNA College of Engineering and Technology and Tucker EV Chargers. Run for bone and joint health on Sunday, December 21. Entry is free. All are welcome. For a pilot to move between two airlines in India, there's a mandatory notice period. For a senior pilot, that is 12 months, and for a co pilot, it is a mandatory 6 months. So, Indigo cannot hire new pilots anytime soon. Then, what is the way forward? To talk more on this, I am joined by former AirAsia India CFO Vijay Gopalan. Thank you for joining me. My first question to you is, why were passengers left stranded for days? Could this have been handled better? Do you think Indigo took passengers for granted because it is the largest airline?
Could it have been handled better, Nisha? 100% it could have been handled. It should have been handled better. We are talking about, look, flight cancellations happen with most of the airlines. It's not new. And it is because of operational reasons, as they keep saying. But when a cancellation at this scale is happening and so many passengers are left stranded, definitely it should have been handled better. Communication could have been better. I'm pretty sure they knew it a bit much earlier that they were going to hit this roadblock. They could have handled they should have had some contingencies in place. Yes.
What basic rights do passengers have when flights are cancelled or delayed for hours? Can people claim penalty payments for hotels and missed weddings or missed medical appointments? Yeah, I'm sure many would have, many would not have been able to go to their exams too. So, what are could there be a better compensation?
Could there be a better compensation? The answer always is yes. I mean, can something be better? It definitely can be better. But the rights per se for flyers in India are very, very restricted. Yes, you do have regulations, but the enforceability is not that great here. Now, let's say you have a missed wedding. I saw a reel where the bride and the groom had a reception elsewhere and poor things had to do it online. Now, what about the reception expenses they've incurred there and they couldn't travel because of this? I don't think that's going to get covered by your civil aviation regulations. So I think that's going to be a very, very separate mandate. You'll have to move to consumer court if at all you want to.
Okay, so India's stricter pilot fatigue management rules applies for all airlines, right? But why is only
That's
Indigo facing such cancellation issues?
Look, anything that I say at this point in time is going to be speculation, Nisha. So I think I'll want to stay away from speculating without knowing the full facts. But I'm going to leave one thing here is that Indigo scale is massive. They run 70% of the country's airline demand. I mean, so what could probably Akasa may have had this, SpiceJet may have had this, I don't know, but the sheer scale of Indigo can kind of magnify this entire issue that they're having. There's no other reason apart from the fact that they've probably been very lackadaisical or nonchalant about complying with certain regulations. The second thing is it need not necessarily be only this FDTL related issues, because parallelly there is an Airbus software upgrade that Airbus has called for. I don't know how much of that has actually contributed to this particular issue. So it could be a multitude of factors, but in Indigo's case, I think they probably took it a lot more lighter than they should have.
Are Indigo flights safe right now given the exemptions to pilot rest rules?
No. This is something I'm going to make it very clear. Indian air safety is on par with international standards. So I think no flyer should worry about safety. Look, we've had an Air India crash, a very, very unfortunate incident. But I don't think that's reason enough for us to cast aspersions on our country's air safety framework. Just to put it in context, I think the FDTL regulations are a lot more complicated, but let me take very simple examples. We are talking about 36 hours of continuous rest, which has been moved to 48, which is one aspect of the FDTL. To put it in context, 36 hours is pretty much what UK and Europe have mandated. Surprise, US regulations require only 30 hours of continuous rest. So we have actually gone ahead much beyond what other countries are following to ensure that our safety standards are paramount. And having worked in the industry, one thing is the overall safety framework is fairly solid. So I don't think Indian flyers should worry about pilot getting fatigued and therefore there being a risk. Our existing regulations are on par with international standards. I think the government was trying to make it even better.
Okay, let's go back to passenger compensation. Does India need a stronger passenger compensation law like the EU? Should someone be held accountable for this mess now? If yes, who? The airline, the regulator, or both?
Okay, there are two parts to this question. One is the passenger compensation. The fact is, the compensation definitely needs to get better in our country. Look, for instance, if you book a normal fare, and a lot of people do not understand this, when you innocently go and book a air ticket, the fine print says that the cancellation charges are as high as even 4,000, 5,000 for a 3,000 rupees ticket. I mean, that's insane. First of all, the consumer education has to be a lot more solid to say that if you, and it needs to be in bold when somebody books a ticket saying that at a cheaper fare, this is going to be a cancellation, you can't move it. A lot of people don't understand that. Secondly, uh, I think the civil aviation rights that passengers have is something that they don't understand. It is like saying in our own road rules, not many people understand what is the exact fine for jumping a signal, what is the exact fine for traveling in one way. I mean, it's all a blur, and that's pretty much what's happening with aviation rights. I think the civil aviation department, the Ministry of Civil Aviation, should take it upon themselves to publicize the rights that every flyer has. I think that education is extremely important. To answer your second part of the question, who should somebody be held accountable? Of course, yes. Where is there even a doubt? I think more than one people should be held accountable for this. The two primary parties to this are Indigo and the government through DGCA. Truth be told, I think the accountability has to sit with both of them. More so with Indigo at this point in time because they are the ones who are running the airline and they knew these regulations were coming. So whatever be the excuses you give should have happened much earlier, not when complete mayhem and chaos has broken. Now you can't come and say, you know what, we were actually worried about the regulations. None of that. Come on. So I would place majority of the accountability on Indigo. Having said which, the government should have may have been able. They could have taken some amount of measures to ensure that it didn't come down to this, considering that it's a duopoly in our country. Unlike in other industries where you have multiple other players, when you know that 70% of the market is controlled by this one person, I probably think that we left ourselves a bit too exposed to be at that mercy.
So Indigo already knew that such regulations were coming in. So what was the reason for them being this lethargic?
Well, that's exactly the question that government is asking Indigo through the show cause notice at this point in time, saying that how did it come down to this? Um, Honestly, I don't have an answer because it baffles me. 20 years of efforts that Indigo's put in terms of building a brand, all literally quashed in about 3 to 4 days. Right. Also, it coupled with the fact that, look, Nisha, I'm going to be quite brutal about this. Indigo over these years have run an extremely reliable airline. I mean, that's what they've prided themselves. And I have my own points on those because a typical Chennai Delhi flight when Jet Airways was flying, the time used to be 2.5 hours. That's what the time would say. When you depart at 7 o'clock, the landing time would be shown as 9:30. Today, you go check a Chennai Delhi flight, it's 3 hours, 2 hours 55 minutes. So there is no point in buffering so much of time and then saying I've actually arrived on time. You know, so there are keeping all those things aside for a second. Indigo has, while they've run a reliable airline, I don't think they've been the best in customer services for a very, very long time. We've seen scuffles between cabin crew and passengers, ground staff and passengers. While other airlines have had issues, I think Indigo's issues have been way too many. Given that the customer service has not probably been their focus, and I'm talking to you as a passenger, the fact that they probably have taken it a bit too lightly and saying that, okay, today, yeah, we will have an issue for a week, but who else will a passenger fly with if not us? You know, I generally don't like sensationalizing or using strong terms, but if this is the attitude, I think it borderlines arrogance, which is very unfortunate in an essential industry like civil aviation.
How soon can Indigo bring in new pilots to handle the situation, or what is their way forward now?
Look, Indigo will have to first of all, I will need to check if the pilot issue is even real because I saw an open letter from the employees saying that there were pilots who were available but were not rostered. So I do not know how true it is. If that is true, then the pilot issue may not even be such as it may not be of this scale. But if that's not true and they genuinely have pilot issues, then they are going to have some amount of trouble trying to come up to speed on this. Um, If they have come to new regulations, then you will need a lot more pilots, and I would think it's at least a 6 months roadmap from here. But considering DGCA has rolled back these regulations, I think we should be able to hit normalcy in about a week's time.
So, should families avoid booking Indigo flights for the next few weeks?
If families are worried about safety, I would think they shouldn't be worried about. I don't think safety should be the issue, but will the flight take off? Well, I mean, I'm going to leave it to the individual discretion. Personally, when people have been asking me, I said, if in routes where you don't have a choice, just fly. At the end of the day, Indigo is also under fire at this point in time, and they'll want to come back to normalcy at the earliest. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Okay. Why should passengers trust Indigo again after this?
Because there is nobody else. I
Okay.
Let's take Chennai Trichy, and that's a favorite thing for me to say. I live in Chennai. Chennai Trichy, there are 6 to 7 flights a day, and every flight is operated only by Indigo. So if I have to travel to Trichy and I say I don't trust Indigo, I don't have a choice. I can't fly. Same is the case with Chennai Ahmedabad. There are about 4 flights a day, direct flights, of course. I'm talking only direct flights, all operated only by Indigo. So if I say I don't trust Indigo, I can't travel to Ahmedabad through a direct flight. So you don't have anybody else. That's the biggest problem.
Indigo has a market share of about 65%. Clearly, they have monopoly in the aviation sector. So, do you think this has crippled aviation sector today?
Without a doubt, yes. Without a doubt, yes. This has been the single biggest crippling factor because you don't have any other players, right? And this is not happening just in aviation. I'm seeing this happening in a few other industries as well. So unless you have competition, there is not going to be any accountability in a consumer market like this, and that's basic economics, right? So we need more players. We Kingfisher folded, Jet Airways folded, Air India almost folded till Tata Group came and bailed it out. SpiceJet was in trouble. Akasa is a fledgling airline who's trying to ramp up. So we don't have anybody else to fly with. The solution for this situation is yes, we need more players without a doubt. I think, but that's a very simplistic response. Structurally, our Indian aviation is not governed or geared to let people make profits. On one side, we are seeing fares being very, very high. But do you think that airlines are making profits? They are not, because structurally there is so much of work to do. Our fuel prices, our taxes on fuel is extremely high. 70% of the costs are denominated in US dollars. Right. And what is happening to rupee versus dollar? Rupee is constantly depreciating. Off late, it's been depreciating at a much greater speed. So, which means our cost is going to get inherently higher. Our pilot training facilities still have to be upgraded, and I mean we are in the top five. I mean today what we are the fastest growing economy in the world, and our it should get reflected in the aviation landscape of a country. Take all the developed countries, their aviation landscape is extremely solid. Today, structurally, we don't reward aviation players. And the primary reason for that, Nisha, is people still have this perception that flying, airline travel is only for the rich and the elite. No, I think that mindset has to change. It is for the common man today. Just the way railways is accessible to common man, so should aviation be, because we have to save time. It has to be a lot more efficient. It has to be convenient. So I think that mindset has to change and taxes have to reduce. Structurally, we have to make this a profitable airline.
The Federal and Vale Hospital jointly present the Madurai Marathon 2025. This event is co-presented by Walking Shoe Company, powered by PSNA College of Engineering and Technology and Tucker EV Chargers. Run for Bone and Joint Health on Sunday, December 21. Entry is free. All are welcome.